Hey everybody, trying something new here with a different tool for doing my live streams. The old tool that I was using stopped being supported, so I'm trying something different here. So hopefully this all works out okay. All right, so just real quick, I just want to do just a real quick update. Want to talk through several things that are going on that I can see here and. I do believe I'm sharing my screen, and I hope you all can hear me okay. So basically, what I'm looking at here, just to kind of just maybe hide all of this garbage here and just kind of go through some of the things that I'm seeing. It's very clear that we had a 1, 2, 3 waves down, so an ABC down, and very clear that we had an ABC on our way back up. And then from here, one could say that we had a little bit of a diagonal. So like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I say this is diagonal because we did have a little bit of overlap in this area, which kind of negates the like an ABC correction. Although that probably could be found in this. But let's take a real quick look from down here. We bottomed out here at about $9,080, and then right here we had a wick that went down to $9,100. And then of course we've gone up quite a bit since then. We're in a little bit of a choppy zone right here. You can see our algo that's available to the members on the Discord. It's currently called a sell here on Bitcoin, but one thing that I'll say about the algo is, um, it's hard to gauge a proper algo trade based on big moves that happen really fast. So, this big spike up from 11,700 all the way up here to 12,200, and then a rejection from 12,200 all the way down here to about 11,700. Um, and then of course that call to sell. Now, of course, this could just, turn around and work our way up, but I do tend to believe we're going to come back down here and at least test this 21 exponential, which on the 4-hour chart is at about 11,383, 11,400, maybe 11,500, somewhere in that range. From there, we've got basically, and of course, as always, we have a lot of different areas that we need to pay attention to. The first is this channel. So of course, if you're on the Discord, I brought this up before. I brought up the point that this channel didn't really resolve properly. We've had two touches down here in the bottom, and then before we had this wick up here, it wasn't lining up properly. So if I go to maybe another chart, one that doesn't have quite so much on it, and just to kind of give you an idea of what I was looking at, I feel pretty good about blowing everything away here. What we previously had, if we take a look from a channel, we really weren't resolved appropriately. So if we take it from these 2 points and then working our way down from here, you can see we didn't really hit the bottom on this one very well. It just didn't resolve. And we only had one touch right here, so we didn't have two touches down on the bottom. But if we take it from the opposite perspective and we take a look from this high up here, so let's just do this for a moment. Let's start at this point and then I'll go down here to this point, and let's work our way up to where this top was up here. All right, doesn't look like much, but then let's just make a small modification to this where we extend the left, and look at that, it hits the top perfectly. And let's extend the right. All right, so let's just take a look at that. We almost hit the top there. So this does seem to be resolved a little bit better than it was before. So the question, of course, on everybody's mind is, all right, so we had our top, we hit our bottom, and then we kind of tested the top. We didn't quite make it, so this could be like an A, B, and then we have our C down here. But now, of course, the other thing that's on our Elliott mind is this a W, X, Y, and then we're going up for an X. So let me just reconstruct what I have here to kind of give you my scenario and why I think we might not be there. Okay, so we've got two things that we're really paying close attention to. Going to our trend-based fib extension, we go down here to the bottom, we work our way up, and then we start again back down here. And I'm going to extend this out so it's a little easier to see. So again, we're going to be right here at about 9100. For an ABC, you measure the our first wave, which is our A, and then we come back here, and then we are going to do our retracement based on the length of the A from the end of the B, assuming it's a B. Well, our targets for that are going to be either the 618, the 100, or the 1236. If you go beyond the 1236, and for a while there, when we topped out right here, first thing on my mind was, this is it. We are done. But then we continued to consolidate, and then we pushed through the 1236. And we're consolidating, currently, still, we're consolidating above the 1236. We're at 11,700 right now. And the 1236 is at 11,640. And we haven't closed a single candle below that since we were able to push through it. So again, if we're on an ABC correction, this is almost invalidated completely. One more thing I do want to kind of point out. So let's take this from our bottom here, and then we move straight up, and then we pull ourselves down. All right, so if you're going to measure a wave 3, wave 3 typically is going to be somewhere between the 3618 and the 4618. So let's just add those in here, 3618, and we'll make these red just for fun. There's 3618, and then let's pull up the 4618, which we'll also put in red. Okay, so let's just take a look at this. I'm going to zoom in a bit here just to kind of get a little more clarity on this. And I'm going to pull this out just a little bit more so that we have a little more viewing area. All right, so we've got this. We're basically measuring this wick as our wave 1 because we went down first and then we moved up. If I go to a 1-minute chart, it's very, very obvious to see this, so I'm not going to do that though. And then we pulled back here. And so this, I am assuming, is our second wave. Now to measure a third wave, assuming what we have prior to this is a big, from here, assuming we have a 1, 2, if we're going to measure our wave 3, we're going to be looking for either a 1618 move approximately from this big 1 starting from this 2, or we can measure it here starting at wave 1, 2, and then we're going to be looking for a 3, 4, 5, ending anywhere between the 3618 and the 4618. And that's currently where we still are. So question now is, if this is a 1, 2, 3, where's our target? Okay, so to get a target, a conservative target is to start down here at the bottom of our second wave, and let's move our way up to our end of our third. So we've got a good target here. Let me pull up the 236 because this is a good target also, the 23.6%. And that is currently what has been our support. So going, back to this being an Elliott wave and assuming this might be a 5 wave, we just completed our wave 3 and now we're back here looking for our wave 4. So are we going to make our way down here to 11,500 again? Which again, for the 3 hour currently, the 21 exponential is at 11,526. The 4 hour 21 exponential is currently at 11,413. One place we absolutely cannot penetrate is this area right here, which is currently at 11,119. So where are we going to go? This is where my interest currently resides. My interest currently is in this zone right here. So I'm looking all the way down to about 11,400. I'd love to see us go all the way down here to 11,200. I do not want to see us go beyond 11,200 because again, if this is going to be an Elliott wave and we are going for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to be looking for 13,100 and we're going to be looking a little bit like this. So we basically just completed our 1, 2, and now we're up for our 3, and we can get some subdivision on that 3 pretty easily. And then I'm thinking we're on an A, B, C correction. I do think we will come down here and retest somewhere in this zone, and then we're going to make our way up here. I do think it'll take time, but if we are in an Elliott wave, again, we want to make sure that this 11,100 doesn't get penetrated. I do not want to see us get back to this 382. I'd love for us to go back down here and kind of penetrate below the 236 a little bit. I don't want to see us go much farther than some of these 21 exponentials on the 3-hour and the 4-hour time frame, which again are currently the 4 hours at 11,413 and the 3 hours at 11,526. We have found in the past in some of these impulsive moves that the 3-hour has seen pretty significant support. And let me just zoom in a little bit more so we can prove that. So let's take a look at this. Knowing that the yellow trend line is our 3-hour 21 exponential support here. Perfect. And we haven't tested it since then. You know, we got that support. We didn't get to the 4-hour. The 4-hour back then was at 10,500, and we only wicked down here to about 10,750. Sorry, 10,570. I've got a little dyslexia going on right now. You know, of course, when we did have this complex here, we had a lot of moving averages that were crossing in this zone. We did see that support here first. This was on the 3-hour, and then we saw our cross here in this general area, and then of course it took us a while for us to get there, but we did see that retest of the 21 exponential and the 3-hour, and that's where we found our support. Again, right now the 3-hour 21 exponential is at 11,525-ish, 11,412 currently on the 4-hour. So I would like to see a little bit of time for this to play out. We are in a very tight zone, so if you are thinking about playing some of these moves, although I don't suggest it, I would say that, you know, while we are in a little bit of an ABC correction, in my opinion, on this, you know, basically we were easily able to see an A right here. And then, although I'm not sure that I would count this a B, but we could potentially move our way up a little bit more before we move our way down here to the 4, which the longer this takes, the higher some of these moving averages are going to creep up. So if this takes more time, these moving averages will move up for the trade to actually play out and get ourselves into another long in this area to catch the 5. And again, just really depending on where this is going to resolve. Let me go back up here to a 4-hour time frame. You know, if this is going to resolve down here, then we have a really easy play to make. So if we pull, say here from about 11,400, right? Easy stop loss right here. We do not want to see any overlap. So basically our stop loss is going to be right there at about 11,125. And we're going to be targeting up here at 13,100. So that's a 14% move for a 2.5% risk. In my opinion, that is a risk that I'd be willing to take. Deeper it goes, you know, if you want to wait it out, the deeper it goes, the better off you'll be. You know, we still are going to be looking for a 5-wave impulse from that, assuming we do get a good reaction from here. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities to get in on that wave 2 and then pull up here to our 3, 4, and likely we'll probably test this 3 to make sure that that is support at about 12,350, and then go up here for the 5 for us to get to that 13,100. And where this actually ends up resolving, if you take a look on the horizon over to the left, you can see this was a cluster where we had some significant resistance. So this zone really actually does play out pretty well for our targets to be. So we've got our 5-wave target here, and let me just go ahead and change the degree on this to make it just a little bit bigger, and change the color just a little bit so it's a little easier on the eyes to see the difference here. But yeah, I do think that this was an easy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have our 1, ABC, 2, and then This was kind of a big sell-off. I'd say we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 before we wicked up and started moving our way back up. So if you don't believe that that's the way we're going to go, and you really do think that this was the top, which is very well could be, then you have to pay attention to this channel. And you have to pay attention to where we could potentially be going next. Because if this is the start of a 1, 2, and then we're going to go down here for a long 3, 4, 5, you have to acknowledge that we are going to break 9,000, and we're going to go back down here to anywhere between 8,000 and 8,500. And again, going back to, let's go back to the day time frame. These are pretty significant levels that we really have to pay really close attention to, because this level right here is pretty darn important. If you ask me, it's 87.50. 87.50, pretty darn important. Our rock bottom, this is going to be like doom or gloom. You know, we've got a very, very significant support that we have to maintain here at $8,000. We cannot break $8,000. Although if we go to a 3-day time frame, of course, we know we had a golden cross here just recently. I'm going to go ahead and clear this off so that we can see it as we wait for the moving averages all to show up here. The 3-day 21 exponential is currently at $10,000. Yeah, I don't want to see us get back down there, but it is something that we do kind of have to pay attention to. The weekly 21 exponential, though, you know, if we look at the Bollinger Bands, we do see we are very well in an expansion phase right now. But the 21 exponential on the weekly is at 86.41. I can see that as being a possibility for us to go to. Again, assuming that that was the top and we are going to go back to test that, I can see us going back down here to that area. It's a pretty critical area. Again, on the Bollinger Bands, this is just a 20 simple moving average. This is a 21 exponential, slightly higher, and again, 86.50 or so. I think it would take a lot for us to get down there. And again, looking on the weekly, we've got pretty significant support that we should have here in this zone, which is currently at 87.50. And if you give it another week or two, this weekly moving average is going to continue creeping to the upside. So if we just take a trend line here and we just kind of draw a straight line, we can see next week, just next week, this 21 exponential likely is going to be at about almost $9,000. So these are things that we have to pay really close attention to, because when you are in a bear market, you're going to be looking for these zones to be resistance. You can see way back here in July of 2018, you know, we wicked off of it, we pushed through it, then we got a major rejection off of that. And then we had a retest, we had a rejection off of that. And then on the retest, we never even got anywhere close to it. So you can see we overextended, rejection. We touched it, rejection. We didn't even get, you know, close enough to it to, you know, to count this as a real test of it, and we had a rejection. And then once we started inching closer to it, and we all remember, if you were around in October of 2018, you know, 6,400 was, you know, basically our, you know, we had 50-cent moves and everybody was going crazy. As we moved horizontally, we started getting closer to these. We had our major rejection. So then, of course, we looked for another retest and a rejection, very similar to this move right here. We had a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of a gap. We had a bigger gap there, but we continued inching upward. So we weren't moving sideways on no man's land. We were inching upwards, and eventually we just blasted through it. We maintained, and you can see here for the longest time, 5,100, 5,150. This was our support on the weekly for a long, long time. Eventually we broke our highs, and then you know where we are, right? So, so again, our weeklies that we have to pay attention to, going to be right here at 10,600, and then down here 9,500. I don't want to see a weekly close below 9,500 for us to remain bullish. I'd like to see maybe a wick down here to 8,700, maybe 8,500. I know everybody's looking at the CME gap. You know, right now, I don't have any reason to believe that we're going to go back down there until some of those other areas that we discussed are violated. And again, just to kind of recap, based on those moves. Let me go back to this chart, and I apologize, I know it's a little messy. I've got a lot going on the chart here as far as measurements go. Again, I'm looking down here between 8,500 and 8,000, although I do think this 9,000 is pretty significant. We did just have a rejection off the 618 from this high down here to the swing low. So if we do see that rejection, then it is possible for us to to get this retest of the 9,000 area. But again, if we're going to remain bullish, we do not want to penetrate this 11,150. Again, I'm looking for more along the lines of a retest of the 21 exponential on the 4-hour, which is sitting there at about 11,420. As 4-hour time slots go by and by, that number is going to inch higher. So this wave 4 could very well come in at 10,500. Again, if you're in the Discord, you know that I've been paying close attention to some of these moving averages and some of the orders that are in the order book. So I look for big orders that do appear out of nowhere on these order books that happen to be in random places at random times, and more often than not, they're not as random as they appear. So I know that there's an order at 10,500 that's waiting in the books. If we get a good bounce off of that, I'm going to be looking for a long position in this area and to try and catch the wave up to 13,100. Potentially we could get a rejection at 13,000, but I think it is possible for us to hit that algo target to 13,100 before we do get a rejection. But also keeping in mind, let's take a look again, pulling up the other chart. One last thing to point out, and this is a pretty big deal. Let's go back to the daily time frame. So on the daily, so we're basically looking from this being pulling out my trend-based fib extension. If we're going to start all the way down here, and we've got a 1, 2, and a large 3, 4, 5. So looking up here, and then we're going to go down here, and let's just say this was the 2. Let's say this was the bottom of the correction. Where does that actually take us? Well, very easily, if this is going to be a 5, 3, 5 on a correction, well, look at that. This takes us to retest our highs at 100%, because everybody is saying that this is going to be a 1, 2. Well, that's a pretty darn big 1. Everybody's saying, yeah, we're going to go all the way up to, where basically the target here would be 26,550. And that would be our 3 to pull back for a 4, which would basically be, somewhere along the lines of retesting 20,000, 22,000, and then we'd be going way, way, way up this high. I don't believe we're going to do that. I won't be in this camp until we break 20,000. Right now, basically, what I'm seeing this is a 5, a 3, and a 5. And if you want me to draw this out, I will gladly do that. So again, starting from here, we basically had a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. And then we're going to go back for our correction. So this is going to be our ABC, which we've already outlined. So again, we've got A, B, C, and then we're going to go in for a 5. And that's going to be our 5, 3, 5. So if this is going to happen, again, we're going to have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be approximately here. Okay. So this is just a small wave. So this is 5, and then this is basically going to be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. So that's kind of where I'm thinking this could potentially go. So if I had to draw out the larger wave that I think could be happening, we're going to have, again, at 13,100, that's our target, 1, and then we're going to have a 2. It might go a little deeper, but then we're going to have basically our 3, it's going to take time, our 4, and R5, which is going to be there at $19,850 or so. I do think it will take time to resolve. I don't think it's going to happen super fast. We can see how long it took for this impulsive move to happen. You know, again, in my opinion, this correction did happen very quick. It was a very quick correction. Definitely didn't take as long as it took for this to resolve, which is why I think it is possible for us to go down and retest these. But once we do, and we do get the reaction off of it, I do think it is possible for us to go up and retest this. I do think it's an ABC correction. I don't think that this is just a 1, 2, and then we have a huge 3, which takes us up to 26,000, and then a 4 to retest the all-time highest support, and then for us to go high. This will take time. It wouldn't surprise me for us to chop in this zone for a while longer before we do eventually move up here for this 3. I do think getting up to just to this 1 and then coming back down to the 2, this could take weeks for it to resolve. So be careful in your trading. But that's really the comments that I have right now. Again, if you have any questions or anything on what I've just said here, please feel free to to pull that up in the Discord, and I'll be more than happy to discuss that with you. Otherwise, I'll talk to everybody out there. Have a good day. Have a good night, wherever you are in the world.